The sole purpose of why Allah Azza wa Jal has created us and we saw this day and we're about to see the new day inshallah is for the worship of Allah Azza wa Jal. There's nothing that compares or parallels or competes with the importance of a Tawheed. Unfortunately, many members of the Muslim community don't have a good concept of the importance and the weightiness and the superiority of this kalima of La ilaha illallah and this Tawheed of Allah Azza wa Jalla. And that's why you find people left, right and center attaching themselves to this ummah, considering themselves from this ummah, making shirkum billah in many shapes, many forms and many fashions. Scholars of al-Islam, rahimahumullah ta'ala wa hafidhahumullah, during the past and at the present time and in the future to come inshaAllah ta'ala, have always and will continue always based upon the kalam of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to take care of this issue because of its importance. It is not enough for a person just to say La ilaha illallah and that's it as a Muslim, especially as a student of knowledge, a person who engages himself in trying to read and trying to elevate and being more than just, I'm just a regular Muslim. He wants to be a student of knowledge, worshiping Allah, a knowledge, an ilm, and basira, knowing what he's doing. He or she reads about their religion and they want to learn. The student of knowledge tries to delve into, to the best of his ability, all of the different angles and aspects of what the ulama of Islam have left for us concerning this important issue. La ilaha illallah, this kalima of a Tawheed, it has its arkan. Like al-Islam, it has its arkan, its pillars. If you were to ask a person, what are the arkan of La ilaha illallah? Some people never even heard of the question. It can't be conceptualized. The ulama of Islam, they wrote books. Books only that deal with all of the ayat of the Quran that only talk about La ilaha illallah and they explain them. Other books that scholars wrote about the ahadith of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wasallam that only deal with at-Tawheed and La ilaha illallah. That's the ulama of Islam taking care of this issue. Scholars of the deen writing books showing the importance of the issue where they talked about the nawaqid of La ilaha illallah. The nawaqid are those things that if you were to do them or if you were to say them or if you were to believe them, they would render your La ilaha illallah null and void. Like Shaykh al-Islam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab wrote a book called Nawaqid of al-Islam, the 10 things that will destroy your La ilaha illallah, will destroy you being a Muslim. If you said these things, or if you believed in these things, or you did these things, there are 10 different things. If you were to do them, you're not considered to be a Muslim. So the point is, the issue is about La ilaha illallah, and it's an aspect of La ilaha illallah and the kalim of Tawheed, showing the importance, how the scholars took care of these issues. Ulama came talking about as well the madlulat of La ilaha illallah. What does it encompass? What does it compromise? Again, Kitab al-Tawheed by the great muhaddith and scholar of al-Islam, Muhammad ibn Khuzaymah. He has that tremendous book, Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab. All of those chapters talking about what is consistent with the Tawheed and what goes against the Tawheed. Slaughtering for other than Allah, swearing by other than Allah, being afraid of other than Allah. All of those issues that they mentioned. Again, it's a sign and it's an indication of how the scholars of al-Islam took care of this issue. How La ilaha illallah, it has its conditions. The shurut of La ilaha illallah is just not kalam, where you say La ilaha illallah. Scholars wrote books about the conditions, 10 conditions that come as a necessity of La ilaha illallah. Not to mention the virtues, the fada'il of La ilaha illallah, and other than that. So for the next few classes, while we prepare how we're going to deal with the book that we're going to study, inshallah, that we're going to teach here, I want to take this opportunity just to shed light on this issue. Some of those virtues of this kalima, La ilaha illallah, and they are many, many, many of the virtues. I would say to the audience now, to you brothers who are sitting here, help me along with this issue, because there's so many that I would hope that you would be able to give me one, you would be able to give me two. Each individual should be able to give me one or two, but we'll get the boat started. We'll get the race started, inshallah. What are some of the virtues of La ilaha illallah? There is nothing more important than this in the deen of Allah. Everybody here, Muslim. Your little child should know that. some of the virtues. Someone came to you as a Muslim, non-Muslim, and he wanted to know, what's the most important aspect and message of Islam? Every Muslim in his right mind is going to say the monotheism of Allah Azza wa Jal is more important than the prophets and the messengers. It's more important than the salah. It's more important to feeding the poor and the hungry and the orphans. It's more important than any aspect of Islam. More important than jihad. More important than the khilafah. More important than establishing Islam in the earth. The most important issue is La ilaha illallah, and there are many, many, many virtues. So as I said, I'll get you started with a few, inshallah ta'ala. And for as many people who are in this masjid right now, if everybody came up with 2, there are still a lot of other virtues that we didn't mention. That's how many there are. That's how many there are. So from the virtues of La ilaha illallah is the fact that Allah Azza wa Jal has made La ilaha illallah what He called the urwatul wuthqa in the Quran. That handhold that never breaks. If a person understands La ilaha illallah and he's upon La ilaha illallah, it won't let him down. He won't ever be forsaken by that. After Ayatul Kursi, Allah Ta'ala mentioned, مَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ اسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهُ لَا انْفِصَامَ لَهَا. Allah Ta'ala mentioned, whoever disbelieves in the Taghut, that's any and everything other than Allah. Anybody who disbelieves worshiping other than Allah, and he holds on to the urwatul wuthqa, then it will never break. Wallahu wasi'un alim. Allah is expansive, He's wide, and He is all-knowing. Abdullah bin Abbas radiyallahu anhu said that handhold that this ayat is talking about is La ilaha illallah. If a person understands it and he believes it, it's not going to let him down. Not in the dunya and not in the hereafter. But if he was an individual who held on to a saint in the grave, he's an individual who held on to his intellect and his mind, he's an individual who held on to his power and his position and his money, then that will forsake him. Sometimes it'll help him, sometimes it won't. But even when it does help him, the help is only going to be temporary. Whereas the urwatul wuthqa, that's a word from the Quran we should know. Al-urwatul wuthqa. وَمَنْ يَكْفُرْ بِالطَّاغُوتِ وَيُؤْمِنْ بِاللَّهِ وَاسْتَمْسَكَ بِالْعُرْوَةِ الْوُثْقَى. Anyone who disbelieves in the Taghut and he believes in Allah, and he holds on to the urwa, al-wuthqa. What's the urwa al-wuthqa that never breaks? It's the statement and the comprehension and the understanding of La ilaha illallah and what it means. That there is no God worthy of worship except Allah Azza wa Jal. That's from the virtues, that it will never let you down, it will never break. In addition to that, the Nabi and what was collected sallallahu alaihi wasallam by Imam al-Bukhari and Muslim, on the authority of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, he said, Al-Iman bid'un wa sab'una shu'ba. Al-Iman bid'un wa sab'una shu'ba. Fa'afdaluha qawlu la ilaha illallah. From the virtues of La ilaha illallah is the hadith, Al-Iman consists of 70 branches. There are 70 levels of Al-Iman. Things that people can do. If you do that thing, you are a mu'min. He said the highest level from those 70, the highest level is your statement, La ilaha illallah. So from the virtues of La ilaha illallah is the highest level of Al-Iman is saying this statement, understanding this statement, practicing this statement, believing in this statement, calling to this statement. At the end of the hadith, he said, Al-Haya wal-Haya'u shu'batun min al-Iman. And having shyness is also a branch of faith. Shyness, al-Haya, is when an individual doesn't want to be seen by the public doing something that's not acceptable. For an example, smoking cigarettes is haram. A person smokes cigarettes. He won't smoke cigarettes in front of his mother, in front of his father. He won't smoke cigarettes in the middle of the street. He won't smoke cigarettes at the door of the masjid because they have haya. He knows it's haram. The one who does smoke cigarettes, and he smokes in front of the masjid, the door of the masjid, he doesn't care who sees and who doesn't, he doesn't care, he's in front of the masjid, then that's a lack of haya. I'm not saying to smoke away from the people is okay. Smoking is haram. But his haya, he knows that it's haram, so as a result of it being haram, he has haya. He doesn't want people to see him in that condition. That's a level of iman. That's a branch of iman. But the highest branch of Iman is saying La ilaha illallah. And the lowest branch of Iman is taking something harmful out of the street. The point is, that's from the virtues of this kalima of La ilaha illallah. From them as well, and as I mentioned, I hope that you brothers are getting an idea of where we're going with this, because again, we're going to ask you who wants to participate to help us with the many numerations of this issue. Is that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought the Quran, and the Quran explained to us, as Allah mentioned in the last juz of the Quran in Surah An-Naba, يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال الصواب. This sawab. As-sawab in Arabic means correct. This statement of yours, this position of yours is sawab. Again, يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال الصواب. He mentioned in this surah, on that day, when the angel Jibril stands up and the rest of the malaika, they stand up and they will be in rows. No one will be able to speak except the one who says sawab. He says what is correct. Abdullah ibn Abbas, again, the companion of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that the sawab of this ayat is talking about the ability for the person to make the shahada, La ilaha illallah. Those people who don't say that won't have the ability to speak. And if they were to speak, their speech will be against them, a hujjah against them. But the speech that will be for the people will be those people, when Allah gives them the ability to speak, they'll say what's exact and what's correct. So the qawl as-sawab, the statement that is sawab, that people will mention Yawm al-Qiyamah, will be this issue of the ability to say La ilaha illallah is the only kalam that Allah Ta'ala is going to allow from the virtues of this kalima of La ilaha illallah. So the qawl as-sawab. In addition to that, La ilaha illallah is the qawl al-thabit. It is the established statement. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, يُثَبِّتُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا بِالْقَوْلِ الثَّابِتِ فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ. Allah Azza wa Jal will give power and establishment and stability to those people who believe. He'll give them establishment. He'll make them established. They won't be shaky. They won't be on shaky ground. They won't be stuttering. He'll give them that ability to be established with a strong word. In the dunya, they'll be established, and then the hereafter. The Nabi explained that qawl al-thabit, that virtuous statement that's established, is the ability again that the person will be able to say La ilaha illallah. When the malaika come to him in his grave and he says to them, who's your Lord? What's your deen? What did you have to say about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The person is going to be able to say the right thing, be established correctly. He won't have the answer of the person who doesn't know. He won't answer that his Lord was some saint in the grave, that his Lord was the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He'll be able to answer that his Lord is Allah. Allah is the only one that he worshipped, and Allah is the only one that he believed in. And he followed the message and the sunnah and the commands and the prohibitions of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So again, the companion Abdullah bin Mas'ud, he said that the qawl al-thabit was the ability to say La ilaha illallah. That's from the virtues of the statement. Many. From the virtues of the statement of La ilaha illallah, from the fada'il of La ilaha illallah, it's something that we do every day when we make the wudu, from what shows the virtues. The Nabi said, when you make wudu, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and you make a good wudu, where you don't waste the water, and you make sure that you get all of the parts. He said, no one makes a good wudu, and then after completing this wudu, he says, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu, ila futihat lahu abwabul jannati thamaniya. يَدْخُلُ مِنْهَا أَيِّمَا شَاءَ. If someone says that kalima, from the virtues of it, no one says that word except that the 8 doors of paradise open up for him. He'll be able to enter into any of those doors that he chooses to enter into. And that's again as a result of his saying this beneficial word. From the blessings and from the virtues of it, the virtues of La ilaha illallah, is that those of us who have problems, you have anxiety, you have magic, you have the evil eye, you don't have money, people who are in prison, they could be in the real prison, they could be in the prison of the society, they're trying to break loose of the shackles of whatever is holding them back. La ilaha illallah, and recognizing it and saying it is one of the du'as that are mentioned that take people out of their problems. The dalil that the ulama use for that, showing La ilaha illallah and its virtues, is what happened to the Nabi of al-Islam, Nuh, or Yunus, salawatullahi wassalamuhu alayhi. Allah Ta'ala said, إِذْ nada fi الظُّلُمَاتِ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا أَنْتَ سُبْحَانَكَ إِنِّي كُنْتُ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. When Yunus, salawatullahi wassalamuhu alayhi, was inside of the belly of the well, in prison, he didn't have his freedom, and he was in darkness that was upon darkness, compounded, adverse circumstances. He called out to his Lord, the ayah said, and he said, there is no God worthy of worship except you. Glory unto you, and I was from those people who were the oppressors. So that dua is a dua that will solve problems. You want to get married? Make that dua. La ilaha illa anta. Subhanaka inni kuntum min al-zalimin. There's no God worthy of worship except you. Glory unto you, and I was from those who were the oppressors. There are some more now. I want you brothers to try to participate with me in this issue. Someone from the audience, inshallah, give me one of the virtues, the many virtues of La ilaha illallah. Akhi, Kaleem. From the virtues of La ilaha illallah, ikhwani, one of the clear virtues is the man who will come Yawmul Qiyamah, La ilaha illallah, will be placed on one side of the scale, just that one word, along with all of his evil deeds, many evil deeds that will be in the form of 99 big heavy books that are very far and many a number. They will be on the scale, and then La ilaha illallah will be placed in the scale, and La ilaha illallah is going to outweigh it. That's one of the clearest dalils. Ahsante ya akhi Kaleem. That's one of the clearest proofs of the virtues of La ilaha illallah. And the meaning of the hadith is, if a person did all of the crimes and all of the sins in the world, he did everything you can think of, but he didn't make shirk with Allah. If he comes Yawmul Qiyamah, not making shirk with Allah, he didn't make shirk with Allah, he has the ability to be forgiven. He will be forgiven. It may be that Allah will put him in the hellfire to burn and to get cleaned up, and then he'll eventually come out. And it may be that Allah Azza wa Jal won't put him in the hellfire at all. Whoever says La ilaha illallah, believing in it. The Prophet says sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah made haram for him the nar. يبتغي بها وجه الله. من قال لا إله إلا الله يبتغي به وجه الله حرم الله عليه الجنة النار. Anyone who says La ilaha illallah, and he really believes that, he may have made mistakes. From the virtues, he'll come out of the hellfire if he went there, and he may not go to the hellfire. Where, on the other hand, if a person did all of the good in the world, and he made shirk with Allah, he'll go to the hellfire and he won't come out. My man, what's one of the virtues of La ilaha illallah? No doubt about that. But we're looking for from the fada'il. Anybody else? Naam, Sheikh Mahmoud. Good job.
No one can achieve a good deed except who say more than one.
In terms of dhikr, in terms of the dhikr, the best dhikr that you can make always includes La ilaha illallah, like what the brother said. So the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you can see up here after Salat al-Fajr, after Salat al-Maghrib, after all of the 5 prayers in al-Islam, he used to say La ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu lahu mulku wa lahu alhamdu wa ala kulli shay'in qadir, all of those times. So it's from the best dhikr. He says, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, afdalul kalimat arba'. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. The best words that you can mention are 4. Saying subhanallah, alhamdulillah, la ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar. So la ilaha illallah is inside of there. Anyone who says la ilaha illallah, wahdahu la sharika lahu, lahul mulku wa lahul hamdu wa la kulli shay'in qadir, he'll 100 times, he'll get the reward of freeing the 10 sons from the slaves of the sons of Ismail. So in terms of dhikr, it's from the best dhikr that a person can say. Just saying la ilaha illallah by itself, nothing is better than that in terms of the kalimat that a person can make from his dhikr. Anybody else? Any of the virtues of la ilaha illallah? Any of them? Naam, akhi. Allah Ta'ala has commanded in the Quran, ikhwani, that we worship Him, and this is what He made a responsibility upon all of the prophets and all of the messengers and all of the people. He said in the Quran, like the brother just mentioned, and other than that ayat, many ayat of the Quran. وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنِ اعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ وَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. Every prophet came and told his people, worship Allah, don't make shirk with Allah. The virtues of la ilaha illallah is that you worship Allah, and He commanded that. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. All of the prophets and messengers and all of the human beings, they were not commanded to do anything except to worship Allah, to say la ilaha illallah and to practice that. That's what everybody has been commanded to do. That shows the virtues. Some of their legislation, it differed, but this was consistent with every prophet. So Allah sent Nuh in the Quran. Nuh came, he said, Ya qawmi i'budullaha ma lakum min ilahin ghayr. Oh my people, worship Allah. You have no other God other than Him who should be worshipped. And the same was mentioned after him. Salih, Hud, same kalam. Good job, akhi. Asqar Saq. From the virtues of la ilaha illallah is if the last thing that comes out of your mouth is la ilaha illallah, then you're going to go to Jannah. And also, the Nabi told the people sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the virtues that if someone is dying, you shouldn't sit there and make him preoccupied with, what do you want us to do with the money? You shouldn't make him preoccupied with that. The man is dying and he's in the grasp of death. Malak al-Maut is on the scene and he's struggling to take air and to take breath. The Nabi told the people, out of all of the things we could have mentioned to him, to make him say La ilaha illallah. Man kanat la ilaha illallah akhir kalamihi dakhala al-jannah. Anyone who the last thing that comes out of his mouth, the last words that he speaks, the last words that he says, if he says La ilaha illallah as the last thing, he's going to enter into Jannah. So some people think if you're far away from making these dhikr, that if you're about to die or a person's about to die, it's easy to say it. No, it's not easy. If you're not used to saying it, you don't understand it. If you don't believe it, it's just like parroting it, something off of the tongue. When it's time for that death to come, a lot of times people won't have the ability to say it. Any more, ikhwani? Naam, akhi. No doubt. From the virtues of La ilaha illallah is that you become a Muslim. So Allah Azza wa Jal descends. He answers the dua of the person of Tawheed. The person of Tawheed is the only one who's saying La ilaha illallah. Come on, ikhwani, I'm asking you guys. What's one of the fada'il of La ilaha illallah, Muslims, Ummatul Islam? We're not Sikhs. You ask one of those Sikhs some question about the fundamentals of Sikhism, they'll be able to answer, I think, some of those crazy things they believe in. Hindus. Why is the cow important? The Hindu will be able to tell you why the cow is important. Why is the cow Allah? Their ilah. Akhi, Sheikh.
It's one of the
It's one of the reasons why Allah Azza wa Jalla created mankind. We mentioned that. Anybody else want to try on the right side? Anybody on the right side? On my right side? Akhi Kareem, tfaddal. From the virtues of this Tawheed and this kalima is that Allah Ta'ala, He has taken it upon Himself that He has many rights over us. And one of the rights that Allah has over us, instead, the most important right, is that if we worship Him, that's His right, that we worship Him and don't make shirk with Him. And the right that we have over Allah, and we have this right over Him because He made it like that. We are fuqara, we are poor and in need, and Allah is not in need of us. We don't have rights over Him like that. I have rights over you, you have rights over me. You don't have rights over Allah because Allah is weak or in need of you. We have rights over Allah because He made it like that. And His right is that we don't worship anyone except Allah. La ilaha illallah. If you do that, you have a right over Allah that Allah won't put you in the hellfire. He won't put you in the hellfire forever. If you go, you won't be there forever. And because of that Tawheed, He may excuse you. A Tawheed, ikhwani, it is the contract that Allah Ta'ala has taken out for many of the people. As He mentioned in the Quran, لا يملكون الشفاعة إلا من اتخذ عند الرحمن أهدا. Yawm al-Qiyamah, no one will be able to have intercession. Rasulullah won't be able to intercede. The Mujahideen won't be able to intercede. The Shuhada won't be able to intercede. The Malaika won't be able to intercede. The Anbiya won't be able to intercede. Your children, if a child dies in young age, it can intercede for the mother and the father. No one will be able to intercede on behalf of anyone unless they had a contract with Ar-Rahman. They had a contract with Ar-Rahman. Abdullah ibn Abbas said, the contract that this ayat is talking about is La ilaha illallah. Only the Muslim can intercede for someone else. Only. He has a contract with Allah, and his contract is Allah will allow the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam to intercede on behalf of people of this ummah because he has Tawheed, and he'll only intercede for the people of the Tawheed. He won't be able to intercede on behalf of his mother, his father. Ibrahim won't be able to intercede on behalf of his father Azar because he died on other than La ilaha illallah. So the interceder and the one who intercession is being granted for, they can only do it if the contract that they have comes from Allah, and that contract, Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu said, was La ilaha illallah. Anymore. Naam, akhi, tfaddal. No doubt. But what we're looking for, the fada'il of La ilaha illallah. ألم تر كيف ضرب الله مثلا كلمة طيبة كشجرة طيبة أصلها ثابت وفرعها في السماء تؤتي أكلها كل حين بإذن ربها. This ayah, Surah Ibrahim, do you not see that the kalima tayyiba, the good word, is like a good tree? The kalima tayyiba is like the good tree that is firmly established in the ground. It goes up and its branches reach to the sky. It gives its fruit in every season. The Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that the ayat, al-kalima tayyiba of this ayat, the good word is La ilaha illallah. That statement, La ilaha illallah, is the heaviest statement in the mizan. La ilaha illallah is the most important kalam that was revealed to Bani Adam. So ni'mah. Okay, ikhwani, we're going to stop here. We're going to have a few minutes for the adhan for Salat al-Isha. You brothers have any questions, inshallah, about today's dars or other than this? Ikhwani, Ummatul Islam, as I told you, Sikhs, Hindus, you ask them, I'm telling you, why is the cow important? They're going to tell you why the cow is important. We have to be of the people, as Allah mentioned in the Quran, who know how to worship Him with knowledge. قُلْ هَذِهِ سَبِيلِ أَدْعُو إِلَى اللَّهِ عَلَى بَصِيرًا. That's our religion, knowing what we're doing. Not like the kuffar. وَمِنَ النَّاسِ مَنْ يَعْبُدُ اللَّهَ عَلَى حَرْفٍ. They don't know what they're doing. then know what we're doing. Okay, you brothers have any questions concerning this issue? Akhi Kareem. La ilaha illa huwa. There is no God worthy of worship except Him, Allah. La ilaha illa huwa. La ilaha illa ana. Fa'buduni. وَلَقَدْ أُوحِيَ إِلَيْكَ وَإِلَى الَّذِينَ مِن قَبْلِكَ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. So all of those ways that come to us in the Quran, it all means the same thing. There's no God worthy of worship except Allah. And don't translate it, there's no God except Allah. Because that's not correct. There are many gods other than Allah. Many gods other than Allah. There's no true God, no God worthy of worship except Allah. Naam, Sheikh Mahmoud.
If there's some Muslim and praying and going Hajj and doing everything, but die with the tamima.
The tamima, ikhwani, is the amulet. The amulet that people put on themselves to protect them from the ayn and the evil eye. And the Nabi made dua against those people. And he says, sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam, and allaqa tamimatan fala atamma Allahu lahu. Anyone who wears one of these things, may Allah not complete his affairs. The Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam said, a nas on this question, man mata wa alayhi tamima faqad kafara bima unzila ala Muhammadin. Anyone who dies and he has that tamima on, he disbelieved in what has been revealed upon Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa ala alihi wa sallam. He said, ar-ruqa wa-tiwala wa-tama'im shirkun. Certain types of ruqya, calling on the jinn, making shirk with the awliya, is shirk. A tiwala is those love potions. The lady makes her husband love her more, makes someone hate them, like they did during Sulaiman. Yufarriquna bain al-mar'i wa zawjihi. That was with the tiwala, making people love and hate each other. He said that's shirkun. And he said a tama'im, wearing those tamimas, is shirkun billahi subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it should be avoided. It will render your deeds null and void. It will render your deeds zero, sifr. Any more questions, Akhwani? Naam, Akhi Kareem. You have to give da'wah with hikmah. First of all, unfortunately, this is the condition of many of the Muslims, unfortunately, that if you call them to worship Allah alone, they become angry and enraged like the kuffar of Quraysh, the mushrikeen. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, وَإِذَا دَعُوا اللَّهُ وَحْدُشْ مَأَزَّتْ قُلُوبَ الَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ وإذا ذكر الله وحده اشمأزت قلوب الذين لا يؤمنون بالآخرة وإذا ذكر الذين من دونه إذا هم يستبشرون. If Allah is mentioned by Himself, worship Allah. قولوا لا إله إلا الله ادعوا الله اعبدوا الله. If you just tell them, worship Allah by Himself, the mushrikeen, kuffar, they get enraged, they get upset. But when they call on other than Allah, Allat and Uzza and all of that, they become happy. So some Muslims are like that. If you tell them, don't worship the Nabi, don't say, Ya Al-Sheikh Abdul Qadir Al-Madid Al-Madid, Ya Al-Sheikh Fulan, Ya Zainab, don't say that. Ya Rasulullah, don't say that. Just say, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. If you tell them that, the people will say to you, you don't love Rasulullah. So you have to keep giving them dawah, billati hiya ahsan, in the best way. Idfa billati hiya ahsan. Push their ignorance back in a way that's best. Have ihsan to them in the best way. But don't give up giving dawah to those people until your last breath. From the virtues of La ilaha illallah is that we mentioned, ikhwani, that it's the dawah of all the anbiya and all of the rasul. And from them is Nuh, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And he never left it 950 years, call those people. Ya qawmi i'budullah. Ma lakum min ilahin ghayri. So you have to keep with a nice way. Last question. Aywa, akhi, Sheikh.
These people, all Muslims say La ilaha illallah, they don't grasp the meaning of it. That is people you just mentioned, due to ignorance. Will ignorance be a defense for them on their ignorance?
Inshallah, ignorance to a certain degree, no doubt. Al-jahl is an udhr in al-Islam. No doubt about that. Allah Ta'ala mentioned in the Quran, وَمَنْ يُشَاقِقِ الرَّسُولِ مِنْ بَعْدِ مَا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ الْهُدَى وَيَتَّبِعْ غَيْرَ سَبِيلِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ نُوَلِّهِ مَا تَوَلَّى وَنُصْرِهِ جَهَنَّمْ وَسَاءَتْ مَصِيرًا. Anyone who follows, who fights against and he opposes the way of the Nabi after the knowledge came to him. After the knowledge came to him. And he follows a way other than the believers, will lead him to that which he wants. So that's a dalil that you have to have knowledge. And if a person doesn't have knowledge, then this is a problem. He can be excused, but he may not be excused. Especially in this issue of La ilaha illallah. Today we talked about the virtues of La ilaha illallah. La ilaha illallah has shurut, it has conditions. And from the conditions of La ilaha illallah is al-ilmu, al-munafi, lil-jahl. Innama al-mu'minuna, as Allah Ta'ala mentioned, or the Nabi in the authentic hadith, man qala la ilaha illallah, man mata wa huwa ya'lam annahu la ilaha illallah, dakhala al-jannah. He dies and he knows that there is no God worthy of worship. So, he can be excused, but it depends. The person, the Harut, Munkar wa Nakir comes to him and he says, who's your Lord? The kafir, the munafiq, he says, I don't know, la adri. What's your deen? La adri. What did you say about that man? La adri. Those angels will say to him, ma talayt, fama darit. You didn't read, so you didn't know. You didn't learn, so you didn't know. So this ignorance of his is not an excuse now. Because you were supposed to read and you were supposed to learn. What do you have to say about that man who came? Some people are going to say, I heard the people saying something, so I said it. I was born in Pakistan, and that's what they said there. I was born in Sudan. That's what they said there. I was born in Eritrea. That's what they said there. I was born in Cameroon. I was born in Nigeria. That's what my mother and my father, but I don't know what it means. To me, la ilaha illallah, I say it, but I worship other than Allah. I'm afraid of other than Allah. I judge by other than what Allah revealed. I make haram halal, halal haram. So it depends on the details of what's going on. Some people may be excused, some people may not be excused. But generally speaking, ignorance is an excuse, but there's certain things that are ma'loom min ad-deen bid-durura. There's certain things that are known in the religion by necessity. The brand new Muslim who comes into Islam yesterday, he comes to the religion, and there's certain things that he knows goes against the religion, like taking the Quran and ripping up the pages and throwing it away. He knows you can't do that. He knows, the brand new Muslim knows, without being taught, you can't go somewhere and slaughter for others. He knows that automatically. That ignorance has to be taught to him. And then he follows people thinking that that was the right thing to do. So some people who are messing up on this La ilaha illallah, some will have an excuse, some won't. Allah knows best. نكتفي بهذا القدر ونسأل الله تعالى أن يوفقنا وإياكم لما يحب ويرضى هذا وصلى الله وسلم على النبيين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. You're going to hard top.